This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and today we have a returning guest, UFC legend, hopefully future UFC Hall of Famer, definitely MMA legend, and WCW star, one of the big stars in the final days of WCW, probably best remembered for his time with Three Count, David Tank Abbott. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing excellent, Devin. Had a long road battling this liver problem, this liver disease. I was lucky enough to get a transplant, and thought that would be the worst of it, but it turned out there were other problems. So I've been dealing with those unwittingly for a while.
You just were in the hospital for a couple weeks, I think, in and out. What was that whole issue about?
Well, I was more like 30 some days around there. It was a long time. And I got out once because they couldn't figure out what was going on. And I drove home, sat around, and I go, no, this isn't right. And I went back. And the doctors there, who are awesome, world-class physicians, turns out that they couldn't figure it out either, and they were walking around in circles trying to figure out what was going on. And finally, Dr. Toto, who saved me last time on the table when my heart quit, he decided to do a what is it called? A procedure that tests for parasites and stuff like that. And it seems that I had some parasites that took hold. You see, when you get new organs, you have to take medicines to suppress it so you don't reject your new organs. Allows things that you come across that your body normally puts down, and it allows them to grow also. And it seems they think that I came in contact with it like 20 something years ago when I first went to Japan, and it was laying in my system. And by the time it got to a scary point, my system would shut it down. But taking those pills suppressed that, so it allowed the roundworm, what it was. It allowed it to flourish, and it was going to town on my insides. I mean, it felt like a blowtorch and a hacksaw just cutting me away alive. And they finally figured it out. They did a biopsy, which he had trepidation about doing it because it's a risky procedure. But by the time they were doing a nerve block on my pancreas and all that, he said, knowing how tough you are and your complaints, I just said that we have to do it no matter what. Luckily, they did, and they found the parasites. And 2 days of pills, and I'm back to normal. Well, 2 days in the hospital taking pills, and then another 17 days outside of it.
So that would have probably been affecting you all the way back when I did my first interview with you then, I guess.
That's absolutely. Like I said, I was taking one step forward and then 2 steps back, it seems like, every day. Like Paul Herrera is a guy that I started training with at the very beginning. He told me after the fact, because he didn't want to disturb me, but he'd go, man, you'd have a great workout. Then you come in the next day, it looked like somebody ran you over with a tractor. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know what was up. I thought this is part of the procedure of getting a liver put into you, but evidently not.
And you were working out pretty hard even when you had all that going on. I remember a couple days before I saw your wife posted you were in the hospital, you had posted a video running up a hill.
Yes, and I was actually excited, because I was making baby steps, if you will, back to some sort of normalcy for me. I always like to feel confident when I go into some place that I can take care of myself. And I was really happy about that. And I went and ran hills. I've ran hills my whole life. My high school wrestling coach turned me on to them. And like I said, I must have run up and down that hill 1,000 times. And then I was happy, like, wow, man, I'm making progress. That night, I went to sleep and I woke up in the middle of the night with like a blowtorch and a hacksaw just cut me alive. And I don't know if it spurred it on, but something happened because, boy, it was painful. I thought I was eating a lot of protein bars. I thought maybe something indigestion was going on, but no, it was something else. It was parasites.
When did you first notice you had problems with your liver and kidneys?
Oh, you know, I'm not one to say much, but I would say right when WCW came to an end and nothing to do and all day to do it. So and was out extra partying hard. And at the time, and then the UFC wanted me to come back and fight for them. And hindsight's 2020, but I was in the throes of cirrhosis and all the good things that go along with it. The CDs, my feet were blowing up, and I couldn't really put two and two together. And I don't really consider myself an alcoholic, but I guess my record would prove otherwise. But alcoholism is an insidious disease, and you just deny it. It's not really happening to me, that kind of thing. And I fought. I'm not some expert on my record or anything like that because it never really mattered to me. But I fought 3 fights for the UFC, and like a comeback thing. And I just couldn't perform. I'm not making excuses. Every one of those guys that fought me, they won. I fought one of them in a rematch. Didn't go too well for him, but in a backyard in Dayton, Ohio, Brian Grooms' house. At any rate, I think if you go in the back, Feroza's probably still sleeping there. But
Mark Coleman actually put over that fight. He said the same thing, that you definitely had the upper hand there.
oh, absolutely, it was a good time. And you know what? It kind of goes back to the days of the OG, I guess the kids call it now. But you know what? If somebody wants to fight me and everything's right, I'll show up in your backyard in the middle of Ohio and we'll get down. You have to take your hat off to Feroza. He showed up. He's ready to go. Wasn't like everything has to be perfect. And do I look good in the suit I'm wearing and the whole 9 yards? These kids today, it's a different animal nowadays. So, that's important to them. They got to make their little mark in the world. But in my day, it was just getting in there and fighting. Really didn't matter. You didn't need a scale or anything like that. And it was all about fighting. And it wasn't about, what can I do for the people to remember me? It was about, no, let's just fight. And that's what happens. And so, you know what? I'm distracted here. Let me take these pills real quick. Part of my process of living. All right. At any rate, where were we? But it was a different animal. And so you had the Kimbo Slices of the world. You had the Ferozos of the world. The first time, I don't want to backtrack things, but the UFC, the old UFC, set me up with that fight. And like I said many times before, the first, not the backyard fight, but the first time I fought Feroza, I needed knee surgery. Not a big deal. I don't cry. I don't think I fought healthy once, but my first show. But man, I'm gonna cry about that. Who cares? Yeah, you're in the pain game, and that's what happens. You fight. But Ferozo and the whole show, Shamrock, and all those guys, they set up this show. I was supposed to fight some pipsqueak, I don't know, Bolander or somebody like that. It's one of those little bozos that Tito fought and made a name from them. But I was supposed to fight him. And this animal, he's a huge guy. He was like, he's running around crazy, and I'm sitting in my little curtained off area. And what the hell's up with that guy? He's just a alternate. He's not even in a fight. Shamrock's guy goes out and fights. Easy fight. Comes back, says, "Oh, I have a broken hand." So the whole back was all scheming to take Tank down. And so he's got a half hour, 45 minutes of training, getting ready for me to fight. I'm out there fighting a boxing guy. And so I was like, hey, that fight wasn't on the up and up. And most of the fights, if you do your research, I didn't fight my friends and all that kind of stuff. But they all had nothing that was, or anything that was on the up and up. So that went down. So they pulled out, they knew I was hurt, and they pulled out that 370 pound, who knows about numbers, all you fact checkers, get out there on your computer and tell me how much he weighed. But he went out there and he was just pumped up, one, to beat me. That was his whole thing. He had he didn't want to fight Mark Coleman after that at any point. So he did everything in his power. And my editor, who is Todd Hester, he's really deep into the business of taking pictures and the whole 9 yards. He says he's watched that fight 1,000 times, and it went back to decisions at that time. And he says, you killed Feroza, but they gave it to him. So I had to even the score. So even though I was sick, I showed up in Miamisburg, Ohio. I made a new friend with Brian and fought in his backyard. It was a good time. But not too many people. You ain't going to see Tito Ortiz or maybe that Connor guy might show up, or the Diaz guys. I've never seen either one of those people fight, but people talk about them as they're pretty stand-up people. So if they got that reputation going down, good for them.
If you actually had like a percentage of money from the video of that, and it had been properly sold or released, you probably could have made just as much money from a backyard fight as you would in an MMA organization.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but you know what? I've never been into the business end of the fighting business. I was just into getting in there and fighting. Hindsight, oh wow, I could have made a little bit more money. I'm comfortable. I'm not starving. I'm out there. And what? Who cares? You know what? I was dead a couple of years ago, a year ago. I don't even know how long it was. A couple of weeks ago, I was almost dead. But so, like, who cares, man? I don't care how much money I don't. You will never see me standing on the freeway with signs say I'll fight for food. But it's like whatever. I'm comfortable right now, and I'm not going to worry about things. But it wasn't, back to your point, it wasn't up to me. It was up to them, and they got a good show, I guess, in their backyard. And like I said, I made a good friend with Brian, and hope him and everybody out there are doing good.
Somebody recently sent me the WCW pay sheet from the later years of WCW, and I noticed on there you actually made more than Ric Flair.
Yeah, I never talked money, and I still don't. But I didn't even negotiate, to be honest with you. Everything it comes the way it comes. And so Ric Flair, but Eric had plans for me. And when Eric left, I was kind of just floating in the ether, if you will, of professional wrestling. So I just was around. That's all. But the money is not a big deal. That was like a guarantee, and that was the difference between the WWE nowadays and the WCW then. They could give you a guarantee, and I made a little bit more money than that, but I'm not. That wasn't guaranteed. But
Wow.
so yeah.
And you came off as the heel in this recent compilation video I put out about Haku. I know you're actually a great heel, underrated as a heel. But do you have anything further to say about Ming? You told me that you'd gone out drinking with him a couple of times.
This is true. I actually like Ming. Back in the day, back when there was actually people that fought at intersections and stuff like that, there was a huge contingency of Samoans around here. And I was always good friends with them because they all played football. My dad was a football coach. So I get along with the Samoan, Polynesian people very well. And Ming fit. He's like stereotype guy, like big dude. He's like a bear. And much like myself, the fighting stuff, when he had problems with you, then he had problems with you, but he never talked about any of that things. He was very humble, cool guy. And I did see that thing on you because I do watch the shows. And I said I was more mesmerized by me sitting on the couch and how emaciated I was. But when I said Ming is Ming and he is what he is, that's where I still stand. I mean, the guy's a cool dude. He's a legend, and he is what he is, man. No one's going to argue with him, from what I understand.
I heard that your dad actually trained Samoa Joe in football. Is that true?
Yeah, man. You know what? It's true, but you know how the stories get all washed around. My dad was kind of like back when high school football was a big deal. I used to go, and I was the water boy. I mean, my brother was 5 years older than me, and he was on the team, and to go eat with the football players. I was really jazzed about that. The game day thing at the local Sizzler. I got out of school early, and I would go hang out. But my dad was like, you walk around this area with, you got the famous football coaches that people grew up with, and hey, are you Coach Abbott? And he's moved out of this area, but yeah, he's got quite a following just in the local area here as being the premier coach guy, and he was and is a good, cool guy that helps people out.
And Don Fry told me in my interview with him that you are far underrated as a technical fighter. What would you say about some of your technical training? Because obviously you're more than just a barroom fighter. You have boxing skill. You have great amateur wrestling skill.
Yes. So back to my brother, he was 5 years older than me. He played football, and he's like a raw football star. And that really, personality-wise, didn't really click with me. So football season was over, and you must do some kind of sport. So my brother walked into the wrestling room, and I wasn't too far behind him. And oh my God, I love this place. And, the little midget guys that wrestle 107 pounds were wrestling with me and teaching me new things that I shouldn't have learned. But yeah, I fell in love with wrestling, and I want to talk about grab ass things. I've wrestled with world class wrestlers, and I held my own with all of them. And world class Olympic world champion type guys. And I take my hat off to all of them. And I held my own with a lot of them. So there was nobody that walked out of that room and said I was a slouch. And then same, I got wrestling in junior college, and I got in a car accident where my teeth went missing. And I went from wrestling, and I really wanted to wrestle NCAAs, and that really wasn't an option for me because of my knee. So I went to the boxing gym and walked in the door, and Tyrell Biggs was in there, Westminster Boxing Gym, and Mac Kurihara was a boxing trainer there. And obviously, being a white guy at that time and being a heavyweight, their eyes are like cash registers going jing 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 jing. But there were, every time there was a Mike Tyson fight, there was 30 guys that thought they could fight, much less box. But so I went in there, got my ass handed to me because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And but I came back the next day. When I came back the next day, I brought a bunch of wrestlers to the boxing gym, and they would last maybe 3 days and say, hell no, man, they get punched in the face. I'm not doing that. Then I was in love with it. The first time I strapped gloves on, and I have a big, huge trash bag full of VHS tapes, and I'm too lazy to go through them, but I went up north to San Luis Obispo, and there was a guy named Kevin Dixon. And if it's off a little bit, we're talking like 30 years ago. We went to Bakersfield, and Bobby Quarry's little brother. No, that was his brother's name, Bobby Quarry. Jerry Quarry's little brother, Bobby Quarry. And so my friends were telling this Kevin Dixon guy, like, no, this guy kicks everybody's ass in the street, and he's badass. And he said, oh, really? And he goes, tell him to come on into the gym. And so I went up there, went into his gym, and Bobby Quarry was in there. And I'm like, I thought I didn't come up here to hit the speed bag. And he goes, oh, you think you want to spar? He goes, that guy's a professional. He's got 8 fights on his bag. I don't care what he's got. I'm here to fight. Let's do it. And we gloved up, and the tape and everything else. Bobby Quarry got a lesson in fighting, I guess you would say, because I knocked the shit out of him. And everybody in the gym was like, what the hell? Who is this guy? And that's when I got into boxing. I went to Westminster Boxing Gym, fought for Mac Kurihara after I went in the gym 6 weeks afterwards, and beat this hell out of some guy that fought for 3 years that was a local there. And at that point in time, I have been very lucky, but Noy Cruz, who was a trainer for Carlos Palomino, world champion welterweight guy. Don't fact check me. I don't know if he was a welterweight or a lightweight, whatever, but he was definitely Mexican style, sit down on your punches and crack. And in walks the door a natural bench presser over 600 pounds, white guy. And I went in there, and after I fought that guy after six weeks, and his mouthpiece was out. I had him out basically, and they're like, "Oh my God!" Noy Cruz went up to Matt Kurihara and goes, "I want to train this guy." He goes, "He has everything to be the world champion. You don't have heart like that. You don't have that it factor that guy possesses." And he goes, "I want to train him." So I started training with Noy and Matt Kurihara, and then Jesse Reed came in a little later, and I ended up going to jail for beating up a cop's son who just begged for it, wanted to fight. And that's when the things in this world changed, when everybody else, now it's time to run to the police because you were a big, bad, tough guy and you got your ass handed to you. Now I'm going to get you back with the police thing. So I'm like, no, no, no. And I fought it all the way. I took it to trial. And the guy gets up there crying. I'm like, this is like straight out of the movies. Anyways, I got in trouble for that, and I had to go to jail for a little bit. And when I got out, I was going to the boxing gym, and I was talking to my friends then and said, hey, I need a real sport that's real fighting. I've boxed, I've wrestled, I've done everything, but that is not real fighting like it is in the street. You know, it isn't. And lo and behold, the UFC was coming out into being. And my friend, with his persistent, asinine phone call, repetitive over and over and over, and going, no, this guy's made for the show. And through all these trials and tribulations, they're going, yeah, but he's just a street fighter. And so that's where they came up with the name Tank. And that was one of their stipulations. They needed to call me Tank, the street fighting legend from the movie, Clint Eastwood movie. And I'm like, okay, well, you can call me Lucy, man. If I can go in there and fight, not go to jail, I'm in heaven. And that's what happened. Then a little bit after that, and I end up fighting. I was David Abbott, went out and knocked out the Samoan, and Tank was born July 14th, 1995. Wow, it's been a wild ride ever since, man. Death included. Can't do that one.
And you're actually friends with Clint Eastwood now, which surprised me. I think he was in your backyard, perhaps even. I saw some pictures.
Yeah, no, he was a mutual friend's house. We were barbecuing. He's a really cool guy. You didn't know he was Clint Eastwood. You would just think he was the cool neighbor next door. He's really just there's nothing bad you can say about the man. He's awesome. The only thing is, I think Sally wants to run off with him, so I'm getting jealous.
Is he a MMA fan?
You know what? I don't. It's not something that we really talk about. Yeah, so it's not like, oh, hey, tell me about the movie. Although I'll share this little tidbit. It was right around Richard Jewell, the Jewel movie. So Sally's chit-chatting with him, and he's like, yeah, we're getting ready to close on that movie. And he's directing, acting. And so Sally goes, oh, cool, that's awesome, you know. And she goes, do you play Richard Jewell? And I don't know if you've seen the movie or know who he is, but he's not a very athletic, in shape kind of guy, kind of dumpy. And he looked at her and he smiled, and then he kind of chuckled and goes, no, I didn't play for Jewel. It was a funny moment.
He looks like he still keeps in shape too, judging by those pictures I saw of you guys.
Yeah. He was definitely in shape, and my friend Craig Athy, he's all into the equipment side of gyms and setting up places. So him and his whole network of friends set up gyms for him on the shoot spots wherever they go, and that's the connection there. But yeah, so and then Mike Hamill had some bad luck come his way, but he's fighter and he's getting through it, and cool cat also. But yeah, so it was a good barbecue.
And you're known for your up jab specialty punch there. I think you hit Don Fry with it. How did you develop that punch, and any tips on throwing it for any of us fighters?
Well, First thing, I was going to say stupid stuff, but you can tell I'm feeling better now. I used to do upright rows, and I still do. Once I get past all these hurdles and the quarantine and all this stuff, I can get back in the gym, start lifting. And before, when I was lifting like weight I was doing in high school as a freshman, and I was so frustrated. I used to come home and tell Sally, like, I don't understand what happened to me. We didn't know about the parasites and everything. So I'm hoping when I get back, I will be able to rebuild myself. But back to before I digress, but one of my main lifts in lifting is I do bench and then I do upright rows, which is kind of like a half C in front of you from your waist up to the top of your chest. And I have gotten in upwards of, I have done 365 pounds with upright rows with hand wraps and belt, and they're not slouchy. I get them up, and just that deltoid power allows me to come ripping from my hip and planting it right on your face. And Don Fry is not the only guy that I've knocked on his ass. And so that up jab's very, very been a good weapon for me. And I kind of blame it on my strength. I don't know if blame is the proper word, but I attribute it to my strength and my upright row. So when you're whipping that, it's more like a whip action, and just you don't see it coming.
Now, one fight I saw you in was your second fight against Cabbage, and you were wearing shoes in that fight, and you actually threw a kick. Why were you wearing shoes, and what you're not known for your kicks? What made you?
My wife is laughing. I always wore shoes, and when they took the shoes away, it was like, oh my God, I'm like one of those guys that walk across the asphalt on the street and feels like pins are going through your feet. Yeah, my wife said I have baby feet, but at any rate, so shoes was always a given, and I was in Hawaii, and there weren't any UFC rules, so I wore those, and I was working with kicks, ironically, with this guy named Yuki. He's a kickboxer. I don't know his last name. Old school kickboxing guy. If you look through some of the old training videos, I think they're on YouTube. He's the guy that's holding the mitts, and I'm spinning around with my back fist. I didn't dedicate a lot of working out with him, but I did work out with him, and I thought I throw a kick out there, I'd keep Cabbage on his toes. And part of training with Tyrone Bennett, when I would get tired when we're punching in the boxing gym, and I get tired on the mitts, I would turn and walk away with my shell up, covered up. And then I'd turn around and blast you once you started following me. I used to call that the cocktail punch, because I've seen a bunch of sucker punch cowards in my days in bars do that. And so it was called the sucker, or the bar punch. And so I thought I'd put pressure on him, smash him into the cage a little bit, and then I started walking away, and then that punch was wide open, and we all know what happened to Cabbage after that. He should have never been in the ring with me at any point in time, but he had a little bit of push when he fought that one goofball guy, the big tall goof that faded away into nowhere. But so he had a little push there. Once again, that was my second fight, and I'm in the grips of cirrhosis. No one knew. Dana didn't know. very select people would know, and I'd say I'm fine, I'm okay. So he got, and then John McCarthy, who will be politically correct and say he doesn't have anything to say about me, but he's hated me from the get-go. He's always been a Gracie lover, jiu-jitsu, martial art guy, and he didn't like the fact that I come in there. So he stopped the fight, said, "Hey, are you all right?" And I had a cut that needed to be sewn up on my head, but I go, "Yeah, but you just put a bunch of goop in my eye and I can't see." And he goes, "I can't see." Stops the fight. I think that I would have had a cocktail punch for him, but uh, it was settled at a later point in Hawaii on the, I guess they call it the Rock out there on the Pacific Ocean. And the best part ever was there's a picture, I think it was like in a Honolulu Times or something like that. And it's like a Jersey Joe Walcott, Rocky Marciano punch with the face is all distorted. And it was on the front page of the newspaper. And I take it that Hawaii is a little subculture in there. So he was probably riding high, and one of his haters put him on the front page of the newspaper. And I'd like to find that picture, that fight, or that picture. It's in the newspaper and everything. So all you fact finders, if you can find it, anyways, you could send it to my Instagram. But so I was at the airport, and for some reason, I didn't have my wallet or anything in there saying, "I'm sorry." It was like the 9/11 era. You have to have a photo of yourself to get on. I said, "Well, how about this?" And I pulled out the newspaper, and it worked.
Wow.
So, yeah, exactly. It was pretty comical.
Now, Ken Shamrock stated in an interview with me that the whole reason he feels he lost to Royce Gracie in UFC 1 was because they made him take off his shoes. Don't know if you saw that. Do you think that would have made a difference of him actually winning that fight or not?
Well, I absolutely agree with that. See, from the inception of this UFC thing, there's always been ways to screw fighters, and I'm not the biggest fan of Ken, and I don't dislike him or like him. He just exists, but he's got a point there, And the Gracies, the 1 through 5 was their commercial that showed, "Hey, let's get a bunch of stiffs out here, and we'll have Hoist, who's 180 pounds." Win it all, and then everybody will think, "Oh my God, jiu-jitsu is the savior of. I can be tough if I go to the jiu-jitsu gym." And so, they told him to take his shoes off, and it's a valid point.
And I had a question from a big fan of yours named Mike. You wore your famous leather jacket in your first interview with me. You wore it in WCW on your UFC DVD. Could you explain any of the significance of that jacket to us and maybe what some of the patches are on it?
Oh, absolutely. If you don't know me, which a lot of people don't nowadays, but Bird Dog, who's a friend of mine, and he did like 3 tours in Vietnam. And so all the patches that I have on my jacket were a kind of what's the word? Commemorative strokes at work. Anyways, they're to Vietnam POWs. I got my POW patch signed by a POW, actually, Major Mark Smith, and that I have the original UFC emblem on the back. You won't see that anywhere. I actually, when I was in jail, I was on work release, and so I ran an embroidery machine, and so I got that made for me from my contacts, and so you won't see that. And they're all just tributes to people that fought in wars and are true warriors. That's why it's dear to me.
Now, you've been very anti-steroids throughout your career. Now they have this testosterone replacement therapy. Now that you could maybe qualify for this testosterone replacement therapy, would you ever consider it?
No, absolutely not. And other people have said, "Oh, you can take steroids." And I go, "No, I will never take steroids as long as I live." I mean, I'm anti-steroids, but I don't know. I've not been in that situation where oh man, I need to get big or I need to be strong. When I think of people with steroids, I mean, it's pretty obvious when you check out the guys that are users and then the guys that are really abusers, like human growth hormone. You get a head that's giant. This looks like a watermelon on top of your body. I mean, it's got to be like a tattoo that you don't want. When you go and when you're brushing your teeth or shaving, going, "Oh my God, what did I do to my head?" You should just own it. And then, but it's pretty obvious these guys that fight mostly in the 205 division, which is weird, but because they always wanted to be big, I guess. But you look at their skulls and with that, sagittal crest of the forehead, you could smoke a cigarette in the rain, and it looks like a shield of bone on your head, on your forehead, and the whole 9 yards. And you're like going, "My God, what'd you do to yourself?" I mean, and then they come up with witty names about who they are. Everybody knows when you're walking around and you look like that you're a steroid abuser. And I just not into it. I'm all natural. I'm all everything. So when you see the fat guy that's in there, he's not taking steroids and burning fat off him. I eat like a normal human being, and I'm blessed with crazy strength, and hopefully it'll get back to me.
Tito Ortiz, I'm not sure what came out of it, but his last fight against Alberto Del Rio, the wrestler, I guess he failed the drug test or something for it, so it didn't count as a victory in the end, from what I understand. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've known Tito forever, and we all know I don't think highly of him. In my opinion, he's a really bad person, and he's a cheater, liar, thief. And I can keep going for a long time, but yeah, that fight was a joke. I mean, it's put on by a stooge of Bob Meyerowitz's that tried to sell it. I mean, you have to take your hat off to him. I mean, he had the president of the United States talking to him. God knows why. But, and then things like that. It was just a promotion show. Too bad they didn't have any product. I mean, I don't know what Tito's doing or what have you. I mean, I know that he was down in Orlando or something like that trying out for the WWE. I mean, I don't know how far that goes for him. I mean, good for him, but I mean, if you're the WWE, the guy's got like 3 broken necks. He's deeply involved in, not involved anymore, but he married as he will tell you, a porn star girlfriend or whatever. You had a kid with him.
I think they were married actually for a brief period of time.
Yeah, and so he is what he is. But you know what? I have to admit this, and I'm kind of embarrassed. But I'm not drinking again or anything like that. But I have checked out Tito Ortiz Uncaged. And literally, I watched it last night, and it was out like 3 or 4 days ago. And it was called The Art of Trash Talk. And which he absolutely knows nothing about. It's basically, let's make an excuse for what a jackass I am. I was just trash talking. Anyways, he's sitting there and he's talking about me right out of the gate, and he goes, "Yeah, I was talking with Tank Abbott, and I'm paraphrasing, so no, I had strokes. I can tell you, I didn't know what I was saying, but he's like saying that he had a conversation with me, and that I told him that you need to make a mark so people remember you. This conversation never had. I was myself the whole time. I didn't need to dream up things for PR things for people to know who I was. You know who I was when I knocked the Samoan stiff and his arms are sticking out like a scarecrow. That was my art of trash talking. That's what you will remember me for, not a Dennis Rodman of fighting. I guarantee I'm waiting for him to walk down in New York in a wedding dress and marrying himself like Rodman did. Just as any rate. Anyway, so he talked about that, and I was like, let me tell you something, Tito. I was myself. I didn't dream up for things for people to gravitate to it, that think it was cool. And that's why you're running out of, or on to you. You know, another guilty pleasure of mine is watching Chael Sonnen interview and make fun of Tito because it is hysterical. I, you know what, that guy couldn't get himself out of a building on fire with a fire hose sitting at his feet. The guy just keeps on going and going. But Chael makes a pretty good thing. I have to admit I've rewatched it a few times of all the good things that Chael has to say about the smart guy Tito Ortiz.
And I don't think Tito has actually been signed by WWE, from what I understand. I guess it was just like they were feeling each other out. He trained there. And then during that time, we heard about this drug test failure. And then we didn't hear anything more about Tito training with WWE. So I don't know if that had anything to do with why he wasn't signed.
Oh, well, that just scratches the surface. I mean, you got porno, you got a broken neck, and by the time that he could wrestle at a Ken Shamrock level, I did see the dick grabbing thing.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, by the time he can get to that level, it's going to take him 3 or 4 years. And so, what is he going to be, 50? And like I said, he'd probably go marry himself or dream up something else to keep himself in the limelight. When you're a fighter, don't you think the thing you should do is get out and fight? I mean, I'm dying from cirrhosis and I'm out there fighting, not because I want the accolades or people clapping. I was out there because I love to fucking do it. Pardon the French. I know that you're Canadian, but so it's just, they have a litany of things. If whatever, like I said, the real, true Tito, the fake, phony, fraud thief, is all coming out. It's all bubbling out, and it is what it is.
Now you reminded me about the Ken Shamrock thing where he was
Yes.
doing the thing with the dick grabbing. A lot of people when that came out wanted me to ask you, would you have ever done anything like that in wrestling? What do you think about that?
I don't know about dick grabbing, but anything's possible. You see me dancing with 3 count. I wouldn't do something like that. You know, somebody came up to me at an autograph signing convention, and I don't know where it was. I think it was in New York. And the guy came walking up to me, and he goes, "Hey, man, hear about Shamrock being all mad at your boy Hannibal?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "Oh boy, but he wants to fight him." And I'm like, over what? What are you going to fight about? Like, oh, you're going to make fun of me? I'm not going to be able to sleep at night. But he goes, "Oh, yeah, Ken's all heated under the collar." And then I think I seen something about you going, I'm not afraid of Ken Shamrock. And all you guys out there in computer land, Ken's not a very intimidating looking man when he's not on steroids. And that back to the thing. Just look at his head and his body and everything. Why don't you check out his wrists? He's probably naturally 160 pounds and gets juiced to the gills. And you're supposed to be afraid of that guy? I mean, I'm not really a betting man, but I got my money on you.
And the whole thing about that was I was sticking up for him because I said they have a UFC Hall of Famer, a legit guy, and rather than make him the champion, they have a girl as the men's champion in that company, and they have Ken Shamrock going around grabbing people's dicks. So I was actually sticking up for him in a way. But yes, I'm not afraid of him. I would have nothing to lose by fighting him, even if I lost. He's more famous than me. I'm not
Oh,
intimidated by him at all.
well, yeah, you know, the thing is that uh, there's no substitute for size, and you would squash him like a bug. But that's not even here nor there. It's just how can you be as like a grown man get hot under the collar about somebody making fun of you?
And I was making fun of the bookers. That was the funny thing. I made fun of the bookers.
And the part being is that he he whatever. I'm not going to comment on people that are that way. But I don't know how. Like I said, get over it, man. You're not all that, and But this is it. These guys aren't out trying to find a cure for the coronavirus. So as long as you can take it with a giggle, it's all worth it.
I think he was just in a bad mood because his bare knuckle company was an epic fail.
Oh wow, they were calling me to do that. That was I don't see. Don't pin me down on names or anything. It was something like Friedman or something like that. They wanted, and I'm like, why would I'm the guy that brought the gloves to the UFC? Why am I going to promote bare knuckles? I never had the conversation with the guy, but that's how my thinking was going. And I definitely don't need money to be a sellout and say, "Oh, bare knuckle, that's badass." That's the only thing you're going to break is your hands. I've told the story 1,000 times when Big John was doing the fighters meeting and I held the gloves up and they all started laughing like a big cop goof. Oh, you want to wear those? And I'm like, have you ever been in a fight in your life instead of rolling around in your pajamas with toys? That's what I was thinking. And then now that he's going to be the promoter of bare knuckle fighting. How did the numbers on Tito's fight thing compare to that?
They didn't, I don't think they ever released the pay-per-view buys for it. I know that the viewers, I think it aired free in Mexico or something and it got decent viewership, but the fact that they never released the pay-per-view buys probably tells you something about how many buys it has.
Well, I mean, you got. I mean, if you paid for that, you got what you. I don't know. I don't know. If you paid in pesos, maybe you got a deal.
And I'll actually follow up on that. And now that a few months have passed, I'll try and see if Meltzer or someone could tell me if they actually know what the pay-per-view buys were, and I'll let you know.
That'd be interesting. You know, Shamrock, and like I said, I got my money on you. There's no substitute for natural size. There was. Everybody would be taking steroids.
There's also a bit of an age difference. We're not talking about Ken Shamrock in his prime anymore.
He had a prime.
Yeah. And for Pat Milicic, he would probably agree with us on Ken Shamrock. He also would agree with you on Tito Ortiz, without a doubt, because he feels he was kind of screwed over by Ortiz too. But we won't have to get into it all again because I already have your version on tape. But I know you saw Pat's retort to your version of that incident that took place. What did you think of the video?
Oh, Pat, I sent you that thing and the where I was doing an interview with him. But when I was sitting there with him, I don't know if the audio came with it or not. You just sent a nice picture.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll put it up on the screen.
oh no, it's not a big deal. But I kind of like pinned him down, like, "What? What are you talking about?" And if you're in the presence of a chronic liar or somebody that tells stories, they do a lot of backpedaling, and he was backpedaling. But you know what? I don't care. Who cares? It's like the whole point is if that makes him feel good. Everybody knows, and I'm not going to run from a fight from Satan. Yeah, I'm not running from a fight from anybody. And if that makes him feel good, like that feeling of I'm badass. I'm I'm all right with myself. I don't care. I don't need to fight anybody. But it's like I love to fight. I wish I could get in my car, drive around, and jump out and punch a window in and pull them out and run them over. Somebody I didn't like, but you know, I don't. That's not really something that takes over my thought process. And if that makes Pat feel good, I think we all know that it's kind of a made-up story. And I truly mean this. If he had coronavirus and his whole family did, and they overcame it, God bless him. Not too religious guy, but God bless him. A better way to say it. And thank God you and your family are doing good. But just like me running from him, I find it hard to believe.
And I'll finish this off.
It's sensationalism.
I just got a couple of fan questions to finish this off. One fan wanted to know, you started off MMA fighting with a mustache. Now you have a full beard. Was it UFC that wanted you to have the goatee, or was that a look that you came up with yourself?
No, I never fought with a mustache.
Okay.
Somebody told me I was in TNA on my thing with Bob Sapp. And I must have been partying my ass off in Georgia because I don't remember. I saw the whole thing. I saw myself. I'm like going, I was there? I don't even remember any of it. But if by my wrestling skills, it had to have been starting at the beginning because I definitely looked like a fool out there. I was not polished. Let's put it that way. Luckily, they didn't have me do too much. I just did like a run-in or something like that.
Who trained
Also,
you
I
for
never
pro
had a
wrestling?
mustache. Sorry, I digressed on that. I never had a mustache, and I'm pretty sure I did obviously before I went to jail. I had like a mustache. I shaved because it's a thing when you go to jail, you shave everything. And so I shaved that off, and then when I was getting out, I grew it out into a goatee, and it's been like that forever.
Did anyone ever mess with you in jail?
No, nobody messes with me anyway. No, not really. And I looked like a clean cut cop, and I was lucky that the fact that all the sheriffs out in the farm where I went to were all ex-wrestlers. So I got the best job as an orderly. I was a coach's orderly. I organized softball games. God. Yeah, and I get candy bars. So I was like the candy bar man. So if you won the softball game, you each got a candy bar. Well, I was in charge of all the candy bars, so I had all the good stuff, and I had clean clothes and the whole nine yards. It was pretty ridiculous, but no one messed with me in there. I'm pretty quiet. Like if I got my radar, you get on my radar screen, and I'm gonna hurt you, I'll take my time to get there. And when I do, there's no getting back. I'll hurt you back. Oh. But I don't do that anymore. I'm older. Maybe if you wanted to get in the ring or the squared circle, I could turn it on. I'm looking forward to, I'm feeling really good right now, which is very rare for me. And it's awesome. So like you're like, woo. But so I'm feeling really good. And then once I start training again, I hope I can just get back to the fighting shape. And I know I can do it. It's just a matter of being mentally tough, and I know that I am. So just I get back to there, and then God knows what. I just want to have fun, and that's one of my fun things to do.
And you weren't a bad pro wrestler at all. Who trained you for pro wrestling?
Well, I was at the power plant, and they bounced around. And, Paul Orendorff was always in his office, and he ran the whole thing. And when I first went there, they had all these power plant wannabe guys that are all in thing as a very nice, like 6 rings in it, a weight room, and it was a very nice place. And you know what? There's a few guys that helped me, and I don't even remember. Sarge, I just know him as Sarge, little guy, short.
Yeah, I remember
him. And they would help me, but they didn't really help me that much, and I just had to take it in through osmosis. And maybe I was a little stiff. And then I used to work with Norman Smiley, who is, he's a good guy. I still keep in contact with him.
he still works for WWE, I believe, training wrestlers there.
He speaks Spanish there. That's an inside joke, but I don't have time to explain it. But he works there, and we would be on house shows and stuff like that. And I remember they videotaped my match, or not videotaped it, but they had TV cameras there. And I'm working with Norman, and he's like, whoa, bro, slow down, because I was twisting his head off. And I'm like, oh, okay, Norman. And then another funny time, I threw him on top of one of those heat lamps that go up the ramp to go into the stage in the back. And I was fighting everybody on the thing, and I threw him on top of one of those things, and it was burning a hole in his back. And he's like going, pull me off. It was a TV thing. He's like, pull me off of this fucking light. And I'm looking around, I'm going, oh shit. And I fucking drug him off of it. And then he's like, oh my God, when I got in the back, he goes, that thing, he goes, we're on TV. I couldn't do anything. I was burning myself up. But Norman, in fact, just texted me a little bit ago. He's a good guy. He helped me out a lot. But a lot of it seemed like osmosis, and I'm not really too confident in my wrestling skills. I can I can tell you that I can digest them now. I look at a match completely different than when I first started. Like, wow, like the dick grabbing match with Shamrock. That was funny to watch. If you to the I don't consider myself a trained eye. I consider myself a somewhat trained eye, and it was a pretty funny match. But yeah, no, I don't feel confident in my wrestling skills. But give me 2 months and being on the road, I think I could pick it up pretty quickly. I have a little bit more rooster on the side of that. I'm more knowledge to digest. Once you know the nuts and bolts of things, it's easier to put together. And yeah, that whole wrestling thing, that was a weird trip. Loved it to death, but just my situation, I was in limbo. No one knew what the hell they were doing at WCW, and I don't mean that like they didn't know what they were doing. No one knew what was going to happen and what was next and who was going to run the show, and then someone's running the show, and then 2 days later somebody else was running the show, and they're like, where do you fit in this situation? And I go, hey, Eric's boy, Eric Bischoff, was the guy that brought me in and said he had all these plans for me. And we all know that Eric doesn't work there anymore at the time. So
They should have made you champion because you were
I
coming
was
off of
supposed to be against the Sid. Man, I don't want to talk about that stuff, but there was at least 3 or 4 times I was supposed to be, and I just tried to stay out of it all. It was not up to me. No.
Yeah, I think they ended up having Sid drop the title to Benoit, who left the company the next day. So
Right.
that made so little sense, but it's
Yeah.
typical
Well,
WCW.
then they said that Sid won because his foot was outside of the rope. And then,
Yes, good memory.
well, it was because it was tantamount to me. I then wrestled Sid, and Sid beat me with the crossface crippler thing or whatever. Like, ha, ha, ha. All, and I, you know, went there. It was in Minneapolis, and I was supposed to be leaving there with the belt, but it didn't happen. And to me, I didn't want to get in the middle of any of that stuff. I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever you got plans. I wasn't like gonna go. What are you talking about? Why change of plans? I wasn't in the position to argue. So I wouldn't have anyways. But they had their plans and what they were doing. Just had a good time riding around on that motorcycle they gave me through downtown Minneapolis, Target Center, I think.
How did you like Sid as a person? Because he sometimes gets a bad rap, but anytime I've been around him, he's been a pretty nice guy.
I absolutely agree with you. He's the first guy that kind of not befriended me, told me some knowledge about the business when I first got there. Kind of opened my eyes. I should have listened more than I did, but he was just telling me to keep quiet about everything and where you are in the position of this business. It's nobody's business to tell to know your business. And I was shell shocked. I was in Washington D.C. I think that's where it happened, And it was too soon, because it was. If you would have told me that a month later, I think things would have been different, but not really different. But I would have had a grasp of knowledge that I didn't. My ignorance was not so blaring. So go
The
ahead.
final fan question I had for you was about Vitor Belfort. Do you think he was surprised at your explosiveness?
Oh, because of the way I look,
Yes.
people don't understand that I've ran like 3 marathons. I bench over 600 pounds, do curls with 150-pound dumbbells. No one understands any of that stuff. There's like, oh, look at him. He's a fat guy. He drinks beer. And so it's just like, uh, no, because I'm not part of your little team that takes steroids because you have to accomplish something. It's funny that you brought up the Vitor Belfort thing, because this all ties in together. We went to Japan for Japan 1, where I fought Inoki or something like that. And so they brought us over for like a press junket or something. And so the whole time, I didn't really pay any mind to it, but they had to take you out to lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever. And Vitor Belfort was there because he was the young, pretty boy. He was the baby face, and I was the heel in their stupid mind, their ignorant mind of how the business was. And so there was like a group of maybe John McCarthy was there. There's about, I don't know, 10 people, and we'd all go out to eat. Well, Vitor Belfort rose up the idea of, oh my God, have you seen how much that guy eats? And I'm like, yeah, not really. I don't pay attention to people, how much they eat. And he goes, it is astronomical. It's amazing. And so I go, okay. Well, I go, steroids, man. And I mean, I've never done them, but I know people have, and they eat like horses. Well, so they finally got the nerve up to ask him, hey, why do you eat so much? And he used to say, it's the worm, in his Portuguese. And I was like, what are you talking about, the worm, the worm? And he goes, oh, I have worms. And it makes you eat so much. Well, turns out he was in Japan at that time with the worm, and he's eating like crazy. I could have contacted it in my conspiracy theory mind from Vitor Belfort, thinking that he was Sal, I think that's funny. And then the spaceship came in. Yeah. Anyway, so it makes a little bit of sense, because I had called some people lately. We were just chit-chatting on the phone. He wanted to know I was all right. And he goes, oh my God. And he was one of the execs at Semaphore, the original owners of the UFC. And he's like going, oh my God, remember Vitor Belfort talking about the worm. And he goes, 20 years later, you have a roundworm infection. They said it's been laying dormant in your body. And I'm like, going, wow, that could be a possibility. It's weird. So he beat me twice. He almost killed me the second time. I had 2 days left, according to the infectious disease doctor. He said 2 more days and you wouldn't be here.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, yeah. And you know what the thing is my ability. I don't really liken it to a trait, but to put up with so much pain and just to my detriment, like, oh no, I got it, don't worry about it. And we all saw what happened. And so the doctor's like, no, if you would have kept that up, saying no, something's wrong. They were shooting me up with morphine like 3 times a day. I'd be laying on the hospital bed, and for 5 minutes, man, I'd shake like a leaf, and then finally settle in. And then I had like 3 hours of not like a high, but just normalcy. I could just sit there and start counting the holes in the ceiling tiles again. Like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And so luckily they found it, and I'm doing better. I want to be in the gym. I don't want to be beating some people's asses. I
And
feel
you
like
post updates on your Instagram. I don't remember it off by heart. I'll put it in the description of this video, but does Sally know it to remind us?
yeah, it's easy. If I can remember, it's easy. It's tank period or dot Abbott. What is it at Instagram?
And you are on Twitter as well. Is it still Tank Abbott Podcast?
Yes, and I'm gonna clean that. I was telling Sally forever to take the podcast thing off. This guy that used to was a sycophant. He had dreams of being a podcast star, all this stuff, and I go, I don't do those kind of things. I go, I'll tell you what I'll do. When I leave the bar, I'll go home to my bar, and you set it up, and you can ask me questions, and that'll be it. And then that was like opening the door to insanity. And I have this podcast, Tank Abbott podcast thing. I did some joke stuff a couple times. The only thing that makes them funny is you have to be drunk. But yeah, no. So that just is lingering out there. I'll have Sally try to take it off. I tell her, and then my mind changes.
She should change it to the real Tank Abbott, because a lot of people put the real in front of their names if they're people that have fake accounts.
Yeah. Sally does all the stuff. She says she's selling. I can't even get him verified right now, which is way
And
over.
last question here. It's for my own knowledge. I've been using my punching bag a lot because the gyms are closed. Any favorite combinations that you'd suggest for me to work on?
Yeah, this is an old school one that's from Noy Cruz, who is the actual hands-on trainer of Carlos Palomino. And the beauty of it is Carlos Palomino was like 100, whatever, 47 pounds, but he was a hell of a puncher. And so I was blessed with Noy showing me how to sit down on my punches and everything. Anyways, I like to get inside, so you'd move close to the bag, and you throw a right into the bag and just blast into it, screwing your back toe into the mat and just zapping it. And then you come back halfway, and then you fire an uppercut. You don't even hit the bag, but you do it for the shoulder rotation. And then you come back with a smoking, long distance traveling right hook to the head. I would say that's my favorite combination. Inside, if you were up against a cage or something like that, whack, whack. And the second punch is just to get their head up. Because if you hit them good enough in the ribs, they're going to buckle over. And that's where you just rip that uppercut and then come back, because your shoulders are totally cocked. And then you come back with your right hand and just take their head off. That's my favorite combination.
Thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us. It's nice to see you looking healthier than you have in my previous interviews.
Yes.
Any final thoughts here to close this off for the fans?
Oh man, I'm feeling great, which is rare right this moment. And I just want to say, hey, thanks for keeping the updates. It's cool to chit chat. And what? Sally's trying to tell me something. Anyway, so
Drag
and then
her onto
now,
the
she said I got things she's not going to be seen. She said not this time.
Next time.
Anyway,
Everyone stay safe out there.
yes, the coronavirus.
Stay safe, Kevin.
How is you safe? Are you traveling or what?
the border's closed and everything's locked down here till June 30th. They've already said June 30th. So there's not much we can do. Run outside, hit the punching bag, do push-ups,
Yes.
and do these interviews.
Well, I'm glad I'm keeping you busy. But yeah, no, it's good to you can look back on it. I don't know why I want to talk about this. You probably, if you don't want to, sorry. But Mike Tyson talking about fighting that guy, the guy with wore the ridiculous head thing. Well, what's it?
I haven't even heard about this. What is it?
Oh, well, it's the boxer guy. What the hell's the guy? The white guy. He fought They just fought.
Oh, Tyson Fury?
Yeah, who's the guy he fought? That he said
Wilder.
Yeah, okay.
Deontay Wilder.
Tyson's not running around. He's stated fact, and I have to agree with him. And that is that he goes, I can train for 6 weeks and I will kill that guy. And I take his killing as literally, which I like Mike. I like saying that. Mike and his whole thing. I've never really had. I'm lying about that. Like a hero in my life type thing, but Mike Tyson was not my hero, but my hero was Dick Buckus. In high school, I was a linebacker, and I was at the influential age, and Dick Buckus, number 51, was my man. I actually read his book, Stop Action, I believe. Don't quote me on this, haters. But I remember reading this thing that he hit some guy so hard that he thought he killed him. And I was like, yeah, this is my man. And then he said he walked up to him, and then he finally woke up. And so he didn't kill him, but after that page, he was my hero for a long time.
And I saw a clip of
but Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I see. I get off on these tangents. Sorry about that. But Mike Tyson is the guy. He's the guy that brought fighting to boxing. If that makes sense to you. And that's why I was hook, line, and sinker. I love the man's attitude. I love everything about who he is. What's the saying? Never meet your heroes, because well, so I don't necessarily say I want to meet him, but from what I think of and know of him and how he's conducted his life is I find a lot of parallels, and not on purpose, but just I think he would win. That guy that he's going to fight, I definitely think Mike could do it. And hey, he's talking about doing it, so I hope he does it. It'd be awesome. Another nice pay-per-view I would actually buy.
Did you see the Wilder versus Fury boxing fight?
I flipped through the channels, watched it, not in its entirety. Tyson Fury's a hell of a boxer, by the way. Now, there you go. Mike Tyson, hell of a fighter / boxer. Tyson Fury, hell of a boxer. In fighting. you know, that charge in your head that you think about, where like I say, I drive down the street and the neighbor I don't like 3 doors down might be watering his lawn and look at me the wrong way. I go and tie it around his neck and choke him out. But that's the old time. I've changed. One thing about dying, it has life-changing thoughts. I mean,
I saw Rick Bassman posted a picture of you and Butterbean squaring off. Is there any reason why that fight didn't happen?
probably Rick Bassman. I just leave it at that. But no, I love Bean. Bean's a cool guy. It got all the way to that point, and not to Rick's fault, but but not to Rick's fault, but he had other people promoting it, and they were getting cold feet, and so Rick probably took the blame for it, but there was things out of his control that the money people were like, so it never happened. It was going to be at the Staples Center. Only thing I got out of that was a good lunch at the Palms. There's a Palms around there, so I got a steak out of the deal, and I got to meet Bean.
That would have been a huge fight, I think, because you guys are two legends in your own ways. People would have definitely come out to see that one.
Oh, definitely, but it never happened. There's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but yeah. So I'm rooting for Mike, obvious, for reasons of age and everything else. I feel like I can, and I'm talking like I have a liver transplant and a kidney transplant. I feel like I can get out there and dance again. I don't, and I'm pretty honest with myself. I could barely walk in from the street to my house when I got out of the hospital every day. A little more, a little more, a little more. It's not a fun ride.
Well, maybe one day you and Pat can have an exhibition somewhere, and now that the feud's been built up a bit, settle it in an exhibition.
It's probably about as ridiculous as you and Shamrock. We would both kill those people. There's a little thing in this world called size, and that's why you guys try to take drugs and everything else for your size. But when you're a big man, you know your place in line, and that's behind me, not in front of me, because things don't work out that good for you. Yeah, no, and I'm sorry, I'm stuck on this, but just the point that guy wore and his defense was he wore a 35-pound headdress thing, and that tired him out to walk into the ring. Just for being such a jackass to wear something like that. What are you thinking? That's like a Tito Ortiz move. No, hey, why don't you get in there and fight? Why don't you get in there and box? Not wear a 35-pound head thing and try to make it cool. Those people just amaze me. So it is what it is.
I liked it better when you just walked to the ring.
Yes. Instead of wearing a 35-pound mask, I didn't see it, but I heard that was his excuse. And now you got an old warrior saying, "Hey, I could kick that guy's ass. Give me 6 weeks." I like Mike. I got my money on him.
Well, I think that would draw.
Oh, hell yeah, wouldn't it? Would it draw for sure?
They would just have to go to a state where marijuana testing wasn't a factor, from what I understand about Mike.
I like to smoke. Well, whatever. Hey, everybody likes their demons.
That's the most impressive thing I took out of Mike Tyson's book, the amount that he seemed to smoke during his entire boxing career, and he was still very successful.
Yeah, why not? I went the other way. I was drinking all the time. I had a lot of fun. But yeah, no. My last fight against the Warpath was I was up in somewhere up where the fires were, or Oroville or something like that. I literally walked out there. I was like a camera. I was not. I was like this is insane. And I told the producer, promoter, whatever. I go, when are we fighting? He goes, oh, they have it all down to like a time when you're gonna walk out. And I said, hey, I'm gonna go up to my room. I go, 10 minutes before the time for me to fight, come get me. He's all, well, it's going to be like an hour and a half. And I said, oh, that's fine. I was sleeping in my room. They come knock on my door. And I'm like, are we ready to go? Yep. Walked, got in the elevator, went down, walked in the back, walked right out there, threw a punch. Don't remember the fight. I remember taking him down, having a heart attack, and going, oh my God. But it was like, those video games. I'm not a gamer guy or anything, but where you're like, man, that's exactly what it was like. I was just like, oh, this is crazy. What I get my dumb ass into now? Some guy's gonna try to take my head off. But that's how sick and that's how fun I was. Not fun, but that's how couldn't say no to fighting. Just can't do it.
No, you're one of a kind, and we definitely appreciate your time, and I'm happy to see you're doing well. Hopefully, next time I'm in your area, I can get to the gym with you or something, if it ever opens the border again.
Yeah, hopefully it'll everything will. I'm for everything that turns out good for everybody. Who wants bad? I don't have that fire anymore. That's one thing about my travels in this world and my sickness and all that thing. I've had a lot of introspection, and I used to, when I was younger, have a lot of anger towards people. And now it's like, do your thing. I don't care. Whatever. If you want to talk bad about me and do what you want to do, get down. We all know the truth. The truth bubbles out sooner or later. So
keeps your name out there anyways, if people are talking good or bad about you, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, if you this is a true statement. I never got in it to be Tank. I never got in it to do. I just got in it to do what I love to do, and I'm not behind bars. I used to knock people out like the Samoan. It was like, oh my God, that was great. And I was like, I do this every weekend. What are you talking about? And I was lucky enough to live my life's dream. Not too many people get to do that. Whatever that may be. You can be a mechanic or whatever. What if that's your dream and you're having fun? Right on.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.